Alright, this video here is going to cover 1.2c and d. First off, we talked about multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction in our last lesson. This one here we will talk about exponents, and the one after it we will talk about parentheses, but we are learning our order of operations from the bottom up. First off, what is an exponent? This whole thing is called a power. Whole thing is not an exponent. But in a power, you have your base here, and your exponent is this number right there. Exponents tell us how many times to multiply the base by itself. So, and you are going to have to do this on your homework, when you see 5 to the third, it's not 5 times 3. It means multiply 5 by itself 3 times. Now, you will turn that into 125, whether you use a calculator or not, but you will have to type this first using parentheses in MathXL, or it might mark you wrong. Again, I am telling you that now. How do exponents change what we've already learned about fundamental operations? Exponents are higher above multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. If you're talking about the students and teachers thing, exponents would be the administrator, your guidance dean, your assistant principals, and so therefore they actually can get in front of teachers, because what administrators do in school is even more important, so to speak, than what teachers do in school. So again, that is the idea. There are calculators allowed on your test because you're at home, and there's no way I can tell you not to use a calculator, just like I can't tell you not to use notes, just like I can't tell you all kinds of stuff. I do say that you should try to make sure you can do it without calculators, because at some point when you take those assessments, they're going to have you do it without calculators. So make sure you're not trying to cheat the system so much that you hurt yourself in the future. Work out your exponents in a scratch work area, and the best way to think about it is to expand it first and simplify it next. Do not do any operations of multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction until all exponents are simplified. And that's not hard to think about, because when you look at these examples, it stands out to you. The first thing I notice is this little number that just doesn't seem to fit everything else. And so when I see that number, I'm going to expand it out. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Then I'm going to rewrite everything as it is. And now that all the exponents are gone, remember we are thinking teachers. First teacher in line, or first higher level operation in line, is division. That turns into 2 parentheses 2 minus 6. First higher level operation is here. Now that all the higher level operations are gone, we feed them in order. Again, it's not tough. It's just something you got to take seriously enough to just slow down and actually try to get better at. Second example, again, if you look at it, the first thing I notice is this little number, which tells me I need to expand it out. That's 4. So 3 times 8 divided by 4 divided by 2. Higher level operation, first one in line is 3 times 8. Higher level operation, first one in line is 24 divided by 4. And then of course the last thing we do is 6 divided by 2. Again, looking at it, the first thing I notice, and it's not really just the first thing I notice, but it stands out that this little 2 is here. So I'm going to do 4 times 4, not 4 times 2, but 4 times 4, which is actually 16. And then I'm going to do 7 plus 3 times 16 minus 6 divided by 2. Now that all the exponents are gone, my first higher level operation is 3 times 16. 6 times 3 is 18, carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 makes 4. By the way, you might want to get that back in your system, because there will be questions where you're forced to actually do one single step of multiplication, division, all that stuff in the future on your homework. Anyway, 7 plus 48 minus 6 divided by 2. Any other higher level operations? Yes, right there. 7 plus 48 minus 3. Now that all the higher level operations are gone, front to back. And the last example on this section, again, small number there means separate your 2 out. 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8. That turns into 80 divided by 8 times 6 plus 2. Now that all the exponents are gone, your high level operation is, first one in line is division. We have another higher level operation here. Again, first in line is multiplication, ending up with 62 as your final answer. So be sure to slow down when you evaluate your exponents. Many students mistakenly multiply the base by the exponent and cause them to miss points. Remember, we don't want to do anything else until the exponents are gone. And as long as you remember that, you should be good. Again, I am going to freeze this for about 3 seconds while you pause the video and copy the parts that you need to copy, and then I'm going to move it. Outside of that, let's get to the last one of order of operations, which you should know to be the parentheses. Our strategy and evaluation has been pretty in 3 levels so far. Exponents first. I said those are like guidance deans. Multiplication and division, I said, are like teachers. And addition and subtraction are like students. And so order of operations in our system has been, who do we feed first? And then we feed one person at a time. You do not try to do 4 or 5 steps at once. That's where things get crazy. So this here is going to close our experience with PEMDAS, which will be talking about parentheses. The top priority of order of operations is parentheses. You could think about the parentheses like the principal, because the principal is the most important person in the school. And if the principal walks to a lunch line, which he probably will not, but if he did, he's guaranteed to get to walk in front of everyone there. So parentheses can be used for any grouping symbol whatsoever. These are called parentheses, these are called brackets, these are called braces, but what usually happens is whenever they are what they call nested inside of each other. So if you have something like 2 plus 3 inside of another parentheses, instead of putting parentheses in here and here and here, what will happen is 2 plus 3 will go inside of a bracket, and that will go inside of a brace. So you can easily see that here is this portion, here is this portion, here is this portion, and then the most inner part would be where you focus your attention first. But again, that is all parentheses. It just pretty much means grouping symbols. Although parentheses are a top priority, it doesn't mean we jump to them every time we see them in a problem. The priority of parentheses only comes into play when there are actual operations on the inside. This is where people get lost, because they see a parentheses and they just think, yep, there's a parentheses, so do it. No, that's not the case. Sometimes parentheses notation gets confused with multiplication notation. If you look at these 4 examples here, we're not going to work them out, but the only reason why I do this is because of the 4 times 2. This is not a parentheses situation. This is, because notice that you can do 2 plus 4. That is parentheses notation. This is not parentheses notation. You do not do 4 times 3 first just because it's a parentheses. In this case, it'd be the exponent first. This also is not going to jump in front of division because that's 4 times 2, and you would feed that before you fed this one. So this is also not parentheses notation. But notice that there's actual work inside these parentheses, which means that is also parentheses notation. Visually, the parentheses attract our focus, the focus of our sight, as if they're forcing us to look at that section of the problem. I'm sorry I'm going so fast, but getting through 2 sections at a time, I don't want to have you having a 20-minute video, so remember, you can rewind this and replay it and listen to it again. When you encounter an expression with parentheses notation, work out the inside as if it was a separate problem. After you do that, everything else should be the same. So if you were seeing something like this, first thing I would do is ignore everything else and just work on this. And the first thing I would do here is the exponent. And so I would do 5 plus 12 minus 9 plus 2 plus 6 divided by 3. Again, ignoring all this, the first thing I would do is this, because that's the first student in line inside the parentheses. First thing I would do now is the 3 plus 2. And from there, 3 dots in my notes means you should know what to do from there, because you simply do your division, then do your 5 plus 5, and then add on whatever else was there. I think you end up with 12. But again, just make sure you're aware of that, because that is what this is about. So 4 examples, actually 5 examples it looks like, and then you get ready to get out of here, or we get to our work. First thing I notice is that my eyes are drawn here. Again, common sense says look here, which means I'm going to turn that into 5. So 4 plus 10 divided by 5, parentheses 5 minus 6. Now that all those are gone, there are no exponents, which means I look for the first higher level operation like I did before. Once again, look for the first higher level operation. Now that all the higher level operations are done, feed your students, get your final answer. Here, my eyes draw me to this, which means that obviously has to be the most important thing. And I know again you think parentheses first, but that's not it. This little number has to be dealt with first, so it'll be 3 times 49. And an easy trick for 3 times 49, since 49 is 1 short, would be 3 times 50, and then subtract 3 times 1, which would be 3, which should be 147. But just to prove it to you, 9 times 3 is 27, 12, 13, 14. There's your 147. So for you number people, that's an easy way to do multiplication. This is about 50, but we missed 1 3 times, which means subtract 3. And that's how I usually work that out in my head. Same question, different arrangement here is this one here. So 10 minus 3 squared in this case, this is what draws my attention, but inside of there I have an exponent, which means now I have to do this. Still my attention is drawn inside the parentheses, and then I do my multiplication. In this last one here, or the second to last one, we have this portion here, which again, parentheses, grouping symbol, but the most inner grouping symbol is here, which means that draws my attention. So 3 bracket parentheses 4 to the third divided by 8 close plus 5. Alright, after that we have inside here, again that's not a parentheses, but this is, but we do have an exponent. So 4, 4, 4, which is 16 times 4, which is 64. So 3 bracket 64 divided by 8 plus 5. This is another parenthesis, so 3 times, I think 8 times 8 is 64, plus 5. Again, that is a way of saying 3 times 8 because it's right on the outside, which means that is the first thing we do. And 24 plus 5 is 29. And then you get a problem like this where it's a long division sign. In this case, you want to work out the first step of each one. So in other words, first thing I would do here is multiply, so that becomes 14 times 4, or sorry, plus 4. Down here, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Ignore it again. The first thing I would do up here is 18. Again, that's just a 3. And this does mean 18 divided by 3, which is 6. If that did not work out, and let's say you had 17 over 11, you would just leave it as 17 over 11. If that turned into something like 15 over 10, both of those can divide by 5. You would turn that into 3 over 2. So you do want to make sure that you simplify your fractions as you do them. So your final thought real fast is that parentheses make the expression look more complex. Just remember to focus using your logic to identify what is first, and then rest. Do the rest and repeat, or sorry, rewrite the rest and then repeat. If you learn the rules and take your time, you'll eventually fight your way to the answer, and that's really what order of operations is. So I'm going to put this up here, pause for about 3 seconds, and then move from there. Outside of that, make sure you answer the final question, and again, email me when you have your questions. You have a test that you're getting ready for. Good luck.